Hey everybody, this is Chapter 5, Section 3. We're skipping Section 2. The title is Slope-Intercept Form, starts on page 306. In Chapter 4, we saw that relationships can be shown using tables, words, equations, and graphs. That was one of the main ideas in Chapter 4. In Chapter 5, we're going to focus on equations and graphs are related. That's what we're going to do most of all. There's three main forms of a linear equation. We're going to focus on those in this chapter. The one from this section is titled slope-intercept form. And the next two, point-slope form, and then the next section after that is general form. Slope-intercept form of an equation has two parts, a slope and a y-intercept. That's why it's called slope-intercept. So if you remember the name, you can remember what's in it, a slope and a y-intercept. Whoops, too far. We learned how to find slope from a graph in Section 1. We also learned how to find slope from two ordered pairs in Section 1. We're going to use that some more. The y-intercept, the definition of that, that's the value where your line or your graph crosses the y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is the one that's up and down. So where does your graph cross the y-axis? Slope-intercept form is this equation. Y equals mx plus b. Let me try that again. Y equals mx plus b. M is the slope. B, then, is the y-intercept. In order to help remember that, slope is always the number that goes with the x. The y-intercept is always the number that is off by itself. So you can remember that as well. I put the slope-intercept form in exclamation marks, exclamation points, so you remember to write it down, make sure it's super important. Here's what we're going to have to do. It says, what is the slope and the y-intercept in this equation? Y equals 3x plus 1. Remember, the slope is always the thing that goes with the x. So in this problem, the slope is 3. The y-intercept is always the thing that's off by itself. In this problem, that's the 1. So that's the first thing you have to do. If they give you an equation, recognize which number is the slope, which number is the y-intercept. Practice problem for the same thing. Another thing they're going to have you to do, if they give you a slope and y-intercept, can you write an equation? Remember, slope-intercept form is always y equals mx plus b. Okay. Slope is m. So I'm going to, where the m is, I'm going to plug in a 3 because the problem said my slope was 3. B is y-intercept. This one it says y-intercept of 2. That's a positive 2. So I put plus 2. Plug the slope in for m, plug the y-intercept in for b. Practice problem for you for the same thing. Be careful with this one, because in this one the y-intercept is negative. Think about what that might mean. Sometimes you have to figure out slope and y-intercept from a graph before you can write the equation. So it says, what is an equation of the line shown at the right? They give us a line. In order to write an equation in slope-intercept form, we have to know the slope, and we have to know the y-intercept. So the slope of this one, remember, you start any place where your line crosses in the corner of a box. So I'm going to go from here down to here. Okay, and I'm going to count those. And I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's down 4. And remember, down means negative. And I'm going to go to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. To the right is positive. And now I need to do rise over run. So my up and down number is negative 4. My side to side number is positive 4. And then I have to simplify. Negative 1. So in this graph, my slope is negative 1. Now, what's my y-intercept? Where does my graph cross the y-axis? It crosses right there. What is that value? That's where y is equal to 2. So my y-intercept is positive 2. Now that I know the slope and the y-intercept, I can plug those numbers into my slope-intercept form. The slope was negative 1. X stays where it is. The y-intercept was 2. Okay. Couple of practice problems for you, same type of idea. If they give you two ordered pairs, you have to calculate the slope first using the slope equation from section 1. That was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? There's a couple more steps to this than just that, though. After you calculate the slope, then you have to use the slope and one of the ordered pairs that they gave you. It doesn't matter which ordered pair, you just pick one of them, and plug the slope and the ordered pairs into the slope-intercept formula. The only thing you'll have left that's missing is the b, so you can solve for b. Once you figure out what b is, plug b and the slope back into the slope-intercept formula to get your final answer. So there's a couple of steps here, so we'll do one to make sure you've got it. What equation in slope-intercept form represents the line that passes through these 2 points? So the first thing I have to do, calculate slope. So this is x1, y1, x2, y2. And my equation, remember, y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So I have to do that first. Plug these in. y2 is negative 3. y1 is negative 2, so I have to be careful with negative signs because it's minus in the middle. And then my number is also a negative. Now I do x2 minus x1, and I have to do the math. These change to plus because I have two negatives next to each other. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. I have two negatives, so they cancel, and my slope is 1/2. That's the first step. So we got this part taken care of. Then you must use the slope and one of the ordered pairs and plug them into the slope-intercept form. So slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. I know what m is, it's 1/2. And I need to pick one of my ordered pairs. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to pick this one. And I'm going to put the y value in for y. So in place of y, I'm going to put negative 2, because that's what the y value was. And in place of x, I'm going to put 3. And then plus b, because b is the thing I'm trying to find out now. 3 times 1/2 is 3/2. Now, in order to solve for b, I'm adding 3/2, so I have to subtract 3/2 from both sides. And I get b equals negative 3.5, or negative 3.5. Okay. So, we solved for b. We did that part. Now, plug b and the slope into the slope-intercept formula. So, y equals mx plus b. I knew what m was, 1/2. And now I know what b is, negative 3.5, which would be the same thing as negative 7/2. Okay? I could write that either way, as decimals or as fractions. Either one of those would be okay. That one's got a few steps to it. Make sure you write down those steps and understand what you're doing with those. Here's one to practice. You can graph a line without using a table of values. In last chapter, in chapter 4, every time we had a graph, we had to create one of those tables of values, and that's a lot of work. In chapter 5, there's easier ways to graph. Okay, this is one of those that we're going to learn. Okay? If they give you an equation, identify the slope and the y-intercept from that equation, just like we did in, I think it was example 1. Then put the y-intercept on your graph. Then use the slope to count boxes to get to a second point. When we were figuring out slope earlier, they gave us 2 points, and we counted to figure out what the slope was. Now we're starting with 1 point, using the slope to count to find where the second point should go. So it's kind of the same thing we did in section 1, but backwards. Okay? Then last, you connect those 2 points with a line. Here's how it works. What is the graph of this linear equation? We've got A, and then behind the box there's B. We'll do that in a second. So first we have to figure out the slope. The slope is -3. The y-intercept, which is B, sorry, not y. Don't know why they chose B, but B equals 4. The steps say I have to graph the y-intercept first. So where is y equal to 4? Right there. That's my y-intercept. Now the slope is -3. That means my slope is supposed to be rise over run. So I can change this to a -3 over 1 if it's a whole number. Now remember, -3 means down. Negative is down. And a positive on the bottom means go to the right. So it kind of is giving me directions on how to get to my next spot. So I go 3 down, 1, 2, 3, and then I go 1 spot to the right. There's 1 spot to the right. There's my 2 dots. I put a line between both of them. Now, sometimes it's kind of hard to tell where your line should go if you only have 2 dots. You can do the same thing with your slope over and over again to find more dots. So I can go down 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Down 1, 2, 3, and over 1. 1, 2, 3, and over 1. Once I get a whole bunch of dots, then it's easy to see where my line should go. Okay. Let's do the other example. In this one, the slope is 4. How do I write that as a fraction? 4 over 1. My y-intercept is -8. So I need to find my y-intercept first. You can't graph the slope first. You have to graph the y-intercept first so you know where you're supposed to start. So I'm going to start at -8. And my slope gives me my directions. So a +4 means up 4. And a positive on the bottom means go to the right. So from my y-intercept, I go up 4 places. 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. And 1 to the right. And I can do it again if I want. Up 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes and 1 to the right. Up 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes and 1 to the right. Now I see where I'm supposed to go. Connect them with a line. And that is my graph. All I need to know is my slope and my y-intercept. I don't need to make a table of values. I don't need to plug any numbers in and make math errors. I think this is a lot easier to graph it this way than it is using a table of values that we did in section 4. 2 practice problems for you to use. Sorry the graphs didn't print very well. We're skipping problem 6, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can put them in this empty spot. We will go over this next time we have class, and you should be ready to take a quiz.